Good morning, JDs and Lettleman. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Sunday morning, 8:30 a.m., bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to record episode 50.
Woo! We made it.
Yeah, I can hear it. Great.
We made it. We made it.
We had studio changes and we now have Cameron on the soundboard. So if he is just hitting crickets every time I make a joke, it is that dog.
Yeah.
There
it is.
I just want to give a shout out to Cam though.
Yeah.
Like he's leveled up as a producer.
First and foremost, in our thank yous.
Most improved.
Our most improved award just
Mr. Beerling.
He's doing everything. One hand on the camera, one on the audio.
literally. And before this,
it's
was giving us like direction on where to sit, and put
Yeah.
down markers to make sure that we're in the camera shots.
Yes.
We started off having the roles like someone to change cameras, and Cameron's like, hold my beer. And he's like, I will be the producer, thank you. It's in the Tinder bio.
Love that.
We have it. So yeah, thanks,
Thank
mate.
you,
We
Cambo.
appreciate you.
Yeah, we love you,
I
mate.
guess next is really the listeners, the ones that are left.
Yeah.
The dwindling.
Yeah, all 17 of you.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much, whoever's around still.
Yeah.
We made it to 50 somehow.
It's pretty
Yeah.
hectic. It's been almost, we launched it in late July.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's coming up to almost 12 months straight. There's maybe been a week where there wasn't an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I was reflecting on it last night, it's a pretty huge achievement.
Due to flights, and we couldn't actually make it to the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's nothing really stopped us from doing it. And
Yeah.
God, there were some tough weeks where we had to fit it in, and when just times that we just didn't feel like doing, didn't have the energy.
Yeah.
And we still did it.
It's a good reflection on discipline and consistency again. Just
Yeah, the things we talk about on the pod.
And we kind of did go consistency over in like intensity.
Yeah.
Because we put out some shit episodes, but we still got them done.
Yeah.
As you, the listeners, will know. And plenty more to come.
Yeah.
If you listen back to any of the ones that just us, like,
Yeah. The age-old boys app.
Yeah.
Or is it that segment that didn't last very long, the shit talk?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
canned that after one.
Yeah.
Like,
We've done 50 episodes. Only listen from episode 45 onwards.
46. Yeah.
46, yeah.
but let's look back. I guess we really started with trying to bank up 10 episodes before we actually launched anything. Now, I was very impatient
Yeah.
back then.
And I was the
like,
one saying,
remember.
hold it
yeah,
more.
you're like, we should get as many as we can before we launch. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, I want to.
We've done 3. Time to
Yeah.
launch.
I was like, I want to
Hard
start
launch
pumping
it.
this.
And negotiate to 5, and then you want to launch again. And I think we got to like 9 or
Yeah.
10 before we got it, and we used them very quickly.
Yeah, it flew through that. Hey,
Yeah.
And back then we were in Fowler's, back in the office,
The footy back room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the footy
back room. We had to figure out how we were going to record everything.
Yeah.
Even before that, trying to figure out a name for the podcast
The
as well.
branding,
Branding.
the slogan.
That logo.
We actually didn't put that much time into that. We kind of
No.
like decided, and we're like, yeah, that's good.
That's probably another thing is like I see a lot of businesses spend so long on the name and logo and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I think we had like 30 minutes where we just came up with a
Max,
name.
Yeah.
Canva logo or something.
Yeah,
Like, we're just
yeah.
like, oh, that kind of looks good. Like,
Yeah, that's all right. Probably a rebrand coming
Yeah,
soon,
rebrand.
but it's good
So-
for now. It'll
once
work.
we can,
It's done as 50, yeah.
Yeah. But those planning episodes were like kind of the most fun because like for some reason all those ones in Fowlers, I don't know about you guys, but I was rocking up hungover almost every single Sunday.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
Those episodes always started off with, "Oh, how's your weekend?"
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm pretty dusty."
Yeah, which we haven't done for a while.
No.
Maybe
Yeah.
we matured.
Actually, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's a really
Some
good
might even
progression.
say better than yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
better than last year. Like,
And then even I posted on our story the throwback, those photos of when we were initially like in the thing, and
We've aged.
We've aged.
Yeah, the podcast has
terribly.
really done
You're
a
like
number on
clean
us.
face. You haven't got the Tony
Oh,
Stark.
that's true.
goatee.
Yeah.
And yeah,
You look so young, like
Yeah,
a baby.
and
Cam.
youthful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
youthful.
not innocent, just youthful.
Yeah.
Maybe even your voice too, just like
Yeah. Oh, he was the first. Hey guys, welcome.
Who's that high voice guy
Yeah,
on
we
the pod?
finally figured out how to turn my voice down post
How to
production.
pitch it.
It's all effects. Balls still have not dropped.
Yeah.
come a long way from those mics, our handheld mics. And then we found our pod daddy,
Yeah.
Ooh.
the pod daddy.
Probably our next thank you.
Yeah, next thank you.
Our Lord and Savior, as we say, Mr. Angelo.
Yeah, the amount of
Couldn't have done it
times
without him.
he's saved us. with just the pod falling apart on us.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things though. Like obviously he's been amazing to let us use the space and what like an amazing space it is. But then also too just like all the little kind of tips and critiques and positive feedback along the way has been massive, because you don't get a lot of people that are happy to give you your time and leadership and things like that. So yeah, massive shout out to Mr. Angelo.
Got so much love for him.
Yeah.
His episode where he was talking about how he just likes to give back couldn't be more true.
Yeah.
Particularly in the space of the podcast here. It's just a great person to have
around you.
Walks the talk.
Yeah. And good, really good for the Cairns business community too.
Yeah, 100%.
So, shout out Mr. Angelo.
Shout out Angelo.
So, looking back, obviously we've all grown as people. I said one of the next episodes we'll do is like the values episode, because it's pretty much been bang on 12 months since we've done
See
that.
if our values have changed or
yeah.
similar. Yeah.
So we'll run that back. Do you boys have anything that kind of sticks out from the episodes that you've really valued or appreciated?
Oh, there's this. When I was going through the list last night, there's so many like different, like in these early days when we didn't have guests on, it was all concepts.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I took away from this whole process was like before the pod, you're in your own world of, well, this is what I normally like learn, right? You're never going out of your way on a disciplined weekly basis to go, okay, so let's think about the concept of stress. Let's think about the concept of practicing gratitude.
Yeah.
Like that never came into my psyche.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, if I read a book every now and then that was it.
Yeah.
But what this process and this pod taught me was, it was like a disciplined way to learn new concepts, but it was the fact that I would be forced to come into this, not forced, sorry.
It's all at gunpoint.
Yeah. We would come in here, book a time, and then we'd go, all right, this is what I learned about practicing gratitude. And that age-old saying of, the best way to learn a new concept is to explain it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's never been more true, because there's things right back to our first episode on happiness that have stuck in my mind, like that longitudinal study by, Harvard into happiness that has stuck with me. And there's so many things that have stuck with me because I explained it to you.
Yeah.
You then gave me your viewpoint to counter mine, and I've gone, I've just
interesting.
The concept has now become more fleshed out for me, and it's had such a transformative effect on my life for the last 12 months. It's been remarkable.
If we could comb through all the old episodes and just like collate all the light bulb moments, where like one of us says something and you just see that light bulb go off, and like I know there's been times, and this is quite out of character for me, but I've been lost for words, and I'm just like, one of you guys will say something and I'm just like, just blows my mind, and then you just obviously listen back to it and kind of lets it sink, but it's like living rent free in your head for the next week. So many of those valuable moments, and I think like without being like super selfish, like obviously we come in here to put on a great show for you guys, but it's been like honestly the best thing for our own personal development as well too, because like the amount it's improved like my conversational skills, or just like my general education, or like my scheduling routine habits to make sure that I am planning my weekend so I've got time adjusted for that too, has been absolutely massive as well, which has been really great. So
Massively leveled up.
Basically go start a podcast.
Yeah.
It really is. It really
is
is, because all the concepts that, whether it was habit stacking, whether it was stress, whether it was discipline and confidence and everything like that, the podcast was just the vehicle to practice what we were talking about. And it's like a perfect vehicle, because it forced us to learn new skills of like editing, video editing and reel making and audio editing. And we haven't outsourced anything this whole time. We've done it all from scratch. Everything you see online, everything you hear is all us. We didn't know how to do it 12 months ago, but
still don't really know
and we
how to
still
do it
don't
now.
really know, but we learn stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But that's been one of the most biggest takeaways, is that realizing that the podcast was just the reinforcement vehicle for what we were talking about.
And even that, like the Diary of a CEO, that 1% better, walking out of each pod being like, I reckon if we tweak this next time, or we change that, like just continually trying to improve on our product and just make it better and better each time has been massive, because it keeps like that problem solving part of your brain like really working
Yeah.
overtime,
Motivated.
which has been great.
What's been some of your biggest takeaways, bros?
I think if we look back at where we started, I think something that always has popped up over the past year for me is like when you start thinking about what's like the meaning of life or what brings you happiness, that longitudinal study has honestly just changed my view on what's important.
So relationships.
Yeah.
Relationships, and coming back to that, because it might be like, what is going to make me happy in life? Like, I think there's a balance between going after your goals, and again, we're all sort of like ambitious, driven sort of individuals that want to achieve these massive things in life. But when you look at it, you always hear people talk about like reaching those goals and then still feeling empty. And why is that? It comes back to connections as being one of those key reasons. I think that's probably the massive takeaway, and a good starting point that we touched on really at the start was that happiness episode.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
My biggest one was the 14 guests that we had on.
Yeah.
Just so amazing. Like building those relationships with just people that are absolutely killing it in life has been so inspiring and motivational, because like you have this person sitting across the desk from you that is like considered, like traditionally successful, but just to see like the passion in their eyes when they speak about what they're doing is amazing. And like, I think I took a lot of that away personally, because I was somewhat kind of like stuck in the rat race a little bit. And like, as you guys know, I've had, some big changes with career and life lately. And I think I can attribute that 100% to the podcast. Just the same question I ask every time we get a guest on is like, what was the point where you knew it was time to jump, and what made you feel like you were ready to jump? And all of them had very, very similar answers. And the thing is, you're never ready. It's just you feel passionate about something, you want to give it a go, and that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
So that's been my favorite, just having each guest come in and just share that insight.
Yeah.
Because they're amazing people.
Should we highlight some of the guests? Like, should we go through who we had and maybe pick some of the lessons that we got from them? Because, like, again, it's great to talk about the episodes where we talked about ourselves and what we learned, because we learned a bunch having to come up with different topic ideas.
But all our guests were so different.
Yeah.
So different.
All different walks of life. But like to your point, Cam, there was that one big takeaway for me that no matter what their background was, they were almost obsessively passionate about their chosen field. And even though there were down times, the passion has been the thing that's propelled them forward to get over that downtime. And they've all been successful in their own right, because they were just they didn't start a business for money.
No.
The money just followed the passion, and that was no matter what it was, whatever profession, they've been able to make it successful. Really cool. But first up, your mate Liam.
Yeah,
Liam.
shout out Liam.
Shout out Liam.
Even looking at our interview style with Liam versus what it was with Campbell on Friday.
It'd be so interesting to go back.
Completely
We've
different.
got a different rhythm now.
Yeah, or even just the rhythm for the podcast, the way kind of we bounce off each other, I think is something that, a lot of feedback that we get quite often. But I think Liam was a great starting point. So shout out Liam for being our first guest on the show.
Massive takeaway from him. Just like, again, his passion for being able to go and work with these brands that a lot of people might sort of limit themselves from being able to work with. I think he's built up the skill set
massively
and really honed in on what he's good at.
I don't know if you've checked in with him at the moment, but he's over in Europe with his partner Anna, and he's just making these beautiful videos, like traveling, literally at his core is what he's passionate about, and he's just doing that for a living.
He's doing it,
and by following his passion, it's given him the financial freedom to be able to do that, and time freedom and location freedom,
That's
which is
inspiration.
beautiful. It's so awesome. It's right there. Really, really good start to have Mr. McDonald.
I think also looking back at that first episode, I think a lot of us, like the three of us coming in and trying to ask questions, was pretty janky as well.
Yeah.
Like thinking back, we all came in with like 10 questions. And then us trying to like figure out who's going to ask the question, and then we're like jumping over each other to like ask a question.
Yeah, ChatGPT hasn't written my questions for at least like 20 episodes.
ChatGPT hasn't written the episode descriptions for
really
heaps. It's all on the fly, man. I've just been raw dogging
even the titles,
all the copy, everything.
Wow.
No way.
I've been raw dogging everything.
I didn't even know that.
Thank you. Thank you. That means I've
Incredible.
improved
Yeah.
with my
Yeah.
writing.
You're like up to AI level.
We just
Like-
outed you for being a fraud. Sorry, join the team, brother. Join the team.
Started it when
No more
AI.
book reviews.
No more book reviews. No.
Second, we had Mr. Sam Kenneth.
Yeah.
Yep.
Shout out Sam.
Shout out Sam.
Yeah, we that's where it all started.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why we got him on is we started the pod in Wolf Lane
Yep.
That's
over
right.
a few espresso martinis.
If you haven't heard that story,
Yeah,
go back to that
thinking
episode.
that we were top G's and thought, you know what? A lot of people need to hear what we're talking about. So the ego is strong, and it was enough to propel us forward. And then the ego tapered back once we started actually growing and learning.
It was humbling.
Yeah, it was a humbling experience, but yeah.
That was such a
Shout
good
out
episode
Sambo.
just to hear how they really came to Cairns and made an impact in terms of like bringing something that's very much like Melbourne
Yeah.
alleyway style cocktails and bringing it out to Cairns. Even though I'm sure people could get cocktails in Cairns before that, they really like leaned into being like the first alleyway bar
Yeah.
in Cairns. And then to see how his ambition is already like on track to have multiple different venues, that's crazy.
But it's such an interesting like blueprint because we were talking about this yesterday with Brooke with the Pre-Love Project, and she was saying how like it's something that's so popular in like Melbourne and Sydney and things like that. And like she literally just brought it to Cairns and it's done so well. And so it's like if Cairns is that behind, do we just go spend some time in Melbourne, Sydney, and just see what we haven't adopted yet and bring it back?
That's the thing. Like, I think that works so well for business as well. Because you look at America, so many ideas in Australia have come from what's already popular in America or something like that. For example, like I think Boost Juice, for example, was picked up because Janine Ellis had gone to America, I think, and seen the juice bars over, and then came back and started here.
Yeah.
But even like if you look locally, you've got like say Cartel Collective, like that. Obviously, they blended very much like a similar vibe to say like Culture Kings,
yeah.
which isn't like so many people back in the day would be like, I wish there was a Culture Kings in Cairns.
Yeah.
And they picked up that.
And Culture Kings probably took it from somewhere in America as well too.
Potentially,
Yeah.
Like, so I think that just points to the success that if you have an idea of something that has worked and then you put your unique spin on it, like the Three Wolves or like Cartel Collective, you can make it work in Cairns.
I wonder if there's a limit to like obviously us being in a rural area, what would still work and what wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, like something like like the limo hire or something that. Like something where it's like really prevalent where, there's probably a lot more wealth and things like that in Sydney or something like that. If you brought that to Cairns, whether it would still work as well.
Yeah. I definitely think that's true as well. Like if you go something that's way too niche, that not enough people in Cairns would get into. Yeah. But that's just, again, such a great episode with Sam.
Yeah.
And always love visiting the
banter.
venues.
Yeah.
The banter.
I was there last night. So.
Oh, there you go.
Can't keep us away, even if we tried.
And the only topless guest we've had, Nick.
Going into Nick. Oh, the first and I won't say last, but
I hope we get more topless guests, honestly.
Yeah.
See who we can bring
I
on.
bet you.
Yeah. I was going to say, give me a couple more drinks and I'm in there, brother.
it'll be
that was
you.
such a wild episode. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like his story is just crazy. And just, again, maybe not even something that he really spoke about, but something that I got from him was just like how genuine and happy he is with life. Like, all of us that potentially had just met him when he came into the studio, it was already like we were just best mates. Like, I
It's
feel
just contagious.
contagious. His
So
energy is just contagious.
Yeah.
His aura.
Yeah,
Like,
and he's like been like that.
Yeah, that's how we became friends at uni.
Yeah.
I remember very distinctly, it's like the first or second week of class, and a lecturer said, choose who you're going to be partners with for your assignment. And I was chatting to someone next to me about it, and I could just feel this energy from Nick on the other side. So I just politely said to the person, no thanks.
no way.
And I teed up with Nick and Jordan and Carl for our assignment for that.
Oh,
and
It's
that's
not
how
me,
it just
it's
kicked
you.
off.
I don't want Nick.
That's wild.
Let's crack up.
So,
yeah, his story was crazy as
Yeah.
well.
I love how for that episode as well too, how like we had all the t-shirts on and then we just had like the budgie smugs at the on the bottom. So like from the top we look really professional, but from the bottom it's just like unprofessional. We should do that again one time.
Oh man, I don't know how many people we scarred or
Yeah, it is. It's got the dogs out. Yes.
the dogs out. So yeah, shout out Nick. That was such a good episode.
Yeah.
His story as well, of just winning
It's probably why it
Like-
radiated so well into what he did with
Yeah.
The Most Ordinary Rick. Because he is so genuine and does portray that so well. When
Yeah.
he's being a bit of a stage presence,
Yeah.
you can pick it up. You can't fake that kind
Yeah.
of personality.
Yeah.
Can't fake it, honestly.
He was just himself,
Yeah.
and that's what was attractive.
And people bought into that. Like, we bought into it.
He's also just like funny as fuck.
Yeah, funny as fuck too, yeah.
Got some great stories.
Yeah.
That I had to cut.
Yeah, most of them.
That I had to cut out of the
Oh,
episode.
yeah. He didn't want us to cut it, but
No.
Yeah.
Coming to our Patreon.
maybe we could, yeah.
Sure.
Do we still have the clips?
We'll have that.
We'll find
have
it.
The, he's like,
Hey,
no.
right after the break. All right. We
Cut it
got Angelo.
The man.
Running
the
it
man.
back. Number 2. I think we've kind of sung his praises,
Yeah.
but
Angelo knows how much we love him,
Yeah.
and that's probably such a great episode that we cut very short. So we'll have to do another one soon.
Cass.
potentially in like the next 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cass Marcus.
Cass Marcus.
This was my
Ooh,
original
yeah.
first favorite interview.
Yeah.
Like, I think she was the combination of coming on. She was obviously so educated about her area and like her niche and what she does, but a really, really great speaker. And then just vibed off the energy with us. That was the first one where I walked out where I was like, that didn't
Yeah.
even feel like
No.
a podcast. I was
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
just and again, it's probably one of the first times us all really like hanging out with her. But yeah, just felt like we were hanging out. So like, yeah, shout out Cass, you were a great time.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's so inspiring. Obviously, just got married again, so congratulations.
Congrats.
But just the way that she just juggles everything in her life, and like I remember I was talking to her about like the reels and just like the marketing and like what a headache it was, and she was like, "Yep, you get it. Like you understand." Like she smashes it.
I think her work ethic is crazy.
Yeah.
Just hearing her journey from working at Cairns Central, still having the business running, trying to run in her lunch break to go post
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the items, then come back and continue her shift, and then making that jump to say, hey, I'm going to go full time with
Yeah.
this. That was crazy. And then how much effort she puts in now to really promote it. If you go to any of their social channels, you'll
Yeah.
see how much she's actually in front of the camera, creating the content, and then potentially managing the back end of everything.
Even when Andrew was saying just the way her brain, her brain works is everything is an opportunity for content. Like she's a content machine.
Yeah.
Like when they're on the cruise, when like they're just going around doing things, she's like, oh, like get the camera, like let's do this, let's do that. Like it's just on 24/7. Again, I think that just speaks to her work ethic.
Yeah.
But yeah, really impressive.
Yeah.
Shout
Again,
out
and
Cass.
one that for me was one of the original guests where the passion was so
Just-
blatantly clear.
yeah, exactly.
And that was what was pushing them through.
Yeah.
And then as the episodes have gone on and we've kept having business owner guests,
Yeah.
we were having these like almost deja vu moments of, oh, that's what Cass said
Yeah,
like
yeah.
2 episodes ago.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what Angelo said like
Yeah.
an episode ago.
Started linking it
And
up.
everything started linking up, and you're starting to go, hang on, this little podcast project's actually like
Providing value.
providing value to us. Of
Who
like,
would've thought?
Who would have thought? Like these are some key like life lessons for success as a business owner. These are some of those commonalities that, and we're hearing it straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Facts. We had Suzanne
Suzanne.
from Wellness
Yeah.
Embodied.
Yeah.
That was a really insightful episode. Again,
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
Just
Wild story too.
Wild story
Yeah.
of making that transition to growing the business. I think the biggest thing that I got from that episode was really looking at her view around team culture
Yeah.
and how she's built that. Again, having such a massive team now for Wellness Embodied and starting from just herself, the way that she invests into her team members, make sure they've got the right training, make sure they're always having like people come in for team training days, really building that culture where people actually want to be
Yeah.
at Wellness Embodied and,
Yeah.
and show up for her as well as a leader. So
Yeah.
I thought that was massive.
I think for me, just like it was so obvious that she was like a leader in her industry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like she knew the industry like the back of her head. I think it was really beautiful too because a lot of the business owners we have come on are either like younger or still quite early into their younger business journey, but she's so established and she's almost like the blueprint of what is potentially possible.
Yeah.
With the way that she's grown it and scaled it, especially in Cairns as well too. So I
Yeah.
think providing that insight was really, really valuable.
Yeah, massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. One person that we had on multiple times, our friend, dear friend Cassia.
Yeah.
Whilst you may not think she's a guest,
Yeah.
so to speak, like I said to you guys, and like probably those first like 10, 15 episodes of like content. That's basically Kassia's. That's Cassia. Like, even though we didn't specifically say, hey, what episode should we do? Everything that we came up with was like, I was realizing that, no, this is just a conversation I've had with Cassia like 6 months ago. And she's already covered off on what we're now starting to learn to cover off on. So I'll always be appreciative.
And like, we're like, oh, Cassia, have you heard this? She's like, yeah, I've been following this for like the last 5 years. It's like, okay, I feel like a fucking, you know. No, shout out Cassia. And I think she's just been, I think between Cassia and Alex have been our like number one supporters of the podcast every Wednesday morning, listening straight away. I'm sure, you know, Alex has the alarm set for whatever time it is in Dubai when the episode drops, but always interacts and everything. So yeah, as far as our listeners, shout out Alex, shout out Cassia.
Absolutely.
But yeah, she's always been amazing. We'll, you know, come on the podcast with a minute's notice. So yeah, shout out Cassia, we love you and happy birthday.
We're sending through articles. So
we even get to talk about our day yesterday when we got just shredded up on the go-kart course. We
just launched straight
the weeks.
into it.
We're all just so excited to do the review. So boys, how was your week?
Okay, so how am I going to cut this? Am I going to put this in the front? I'll figure this out.
We'll just keep you on the roll and then we'll do it at the end.
Okay.
Just so we don't like mess up the flow.
We'll circle back around.
Circle back around like we circled on the go-kart track.
Do we have the numbers? Do we have the stats?
I've got them like ingrained in my memory. I actually got them tattooed on me because I was so proud.
Go-kart lap times. That's what we're talking about. This sounds very confusing.
Just confuse everyone.
Who do we have next?
God, we had Maddie Wright, we had Sumbul, Claudia. We've just we could go and do a deep dive on everyone, but I think some of those big takeaways we've just covered off on having guests. But it's been an opportunity to get to speak to people in the community that you wouldn't ordinarily just be allowed to have an hour of their time because they are so busy. Their time is so in demand. They work on hourly rates. And we've just been like, oh, I'm interested in breath work. Let's just sit with the pro Campbell for an hour and pick his brain. Like normally you have to spend a lot of money to sit and get the education from him. But once you say, here's a mic and camera, we'll film some content for you. It's almost like the world just opens up and everyone has been like, I'll come on.
100%.
And it's been amazing.
I remember when we were first, like, and you can cut this if you want, but when we were first talking about getting a guest on the start, I was like, do we like pay them or like how's it working? You're like, fuck no. Like you just ask them to come on and they say yes, you know what I mean? I was like, I guess we'll give it a go. We'll see how it works. But that really resonated me with when we had James on and like when he was talking about back in his corporate structure and his charge out rate and stuff, he was talking X amount of dollars per hour. And I was like, and you just sat here for an hour and spoken to us for free. Like that would have cost us so much money. That's
been a really cool part.
It speaks to the personalities who we had on. Because they all are passionate about what they do so much that they do want to just share it. And this is just another medium for them to get it out to an audience. For sure.
That's it. I was going to say that too. It's just they just want to help people. And they really just want to add value.
Yeah, who doesn't want to sit here and like speak for an hour about like something that they're just truly passionate about, like that you just are in love with. So
the next one we had was Mira.
What's the connection there? How do we know Mira?
Beautiful girlfriend.
Shout out, beautiful girlfriend Mira.
But such an interesting episode. Actually, before we get into the episode, the amount of ideas she's probably influenced
Mira
the podcast
is your
through me. And then again, this is the massive shout out to you for all the content ideas that you've helped us out with. Again, even with reels and stuff like that.
She's like, this is shit. This didn't work. Try this, do this.
Literally, I think I put up a video the other day and she's like, why'd you use that song? Like, this song would have been better. Should have done it this way.
I'm so glad she doesn't message me that stuff.
Great.
You just like, your confidence.
I just block her.
But we had such an interesting episode with her. So, do you guys remember that one?
Which one was it again? Was it this one? Or?
Pay gap.
Actually, I want to say this because like shout out to Mira because this was not an easy topic to discuss. And she was also coming on the episode as a female, not debating it, but discussing it with three males. So like that obviously takes quite large testicles to be able to do that. So
Facts.
shout out Mira for that one.
Stood on business.
Yeah.
Stood on
And
business
she
for that
was
episode.
very like well spoken, articulate as well too. So
I think the amount that she was able to just educate us
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
topic. I
Yeah.
think before that week I had no clue really about the topic. Like you just hear it thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
At the gender pay gap,
Yeah.
all this sort of stuff. So to be able to come on, really talk about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Having our
awesome.
viewpoints challenged.
Yeah.
That was another takeaway for me for this podcast. Having
Having
my
your viewpoints challenge. Yeah.
ingrained viewpoints challenged and gone, oh, I've just learned something new.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it might change the approach in conversation going forward. Who knows what the unintended effect is?
And
Yeah.
we've said this a couple of times. I think this is another really great benefit of the podcast is like being able to walk into a conversation with an open mind
Yeah.
and allowing our views to either be altered or changed or
Yeah.
countered because it would be so easy for us to just come in and like hold our values really and our opinions super true and not actually give the person the benefit of the doubt. But you would see that through the line of questioning and through the conversations we had, it wouldn't feel genuine.
And I think that's what we really wanted with that episode as well, is it's a topic that is easily brushed over.
Yeah.
And for us to sort of pick up on it
Yeah.
and have that discussion where it's really tough, or people don't want to have that conversation because they might offend people.
Yeah.
We actually went into that and came out as a really popular episode where people wanted to listen to it.
Yeah, she spoke really well to the actual like report from
Yeah.
what we're actually looking
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
but also anecdotally, because that's the stuff that can go unnoticed.
Yeah.
As a bunch of guys sitting with microphones.
Yeah.
You don't think about it until you experience it. So to have her have the comfortability to come on and speak about the experience side as well, really informative and opened up my mind to a few different things.
Agreed.
100%.
Same thing with the Cassie episode on the gender
school.
schools.
Yeah.
Gender
Yeah,
schools,
like
yeah.
those two episodes are like probably our highest interacted with on like social media and things as far as comments. So people clearly there is an audience for it, and I think if it can be done, you know, professionally without just being like an argument or like a shit show, like I think it's people get a lot of value from it and they really enjoy it.
Yeah.
From a probably like an educational perspective more than entertainment.
I think those are some really good episodes to throw in there. So, yeah. Shout out Mira.
Shout out Mira.
So, who we got next?
Maddie Wright.
Maddie
This
Wright.
was a good one.
That was
So
hilarious.
yeah,
Like,
such a pro.
Yeah.
That was probably the most professional, I guess, because
Yeah.
she was from radio background.
Yeah.
So we learned some things.
She was probably the first one where like I was like, all right, this is like
legit.
a legit guess. I need to make sure I'm on time. I'm going to actually do some research before the episode,
Yeah.
see who Maddie Wright is. But, like,
funny as.
yeah,
Because she's had probably the biggest, would you say, like personality or
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
like, yeah.
brand person that we've had on the
Mainstream
podcast. Yeah, because
personality.
she's done like House Rules, the TV show. She was on like Drive Radio and
Yeah.
everything like that. So she was a pro in this media space that we were so noobish to.
yeah.
Literally.
And again, it just flowed so well. We
Yeah.
walked out there feeling like
Yeah.
really like we could hang our hat high on that one.
And she is the definition of entrepreneur. The amount of
Yeah.
things she's dived into,
Yeah.
failed at, then landed and stuck to it, and now she's hyper successful.
You see the her comic book project
Yeah.
has,
I know.
has launched, and
I
it's
was
like
gonna
Is it
say-
launched?
Yeah.
I thought it was
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I was going to
Isn't
say that was
wild?
probably the thing that stuck out to me. Not just like her story, but the way that she was parenting or is parenting like her children.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
to really start
Really good
getting
role
them
model.
into, really good role model, getting them already into the idea of like, hey, you can actually create your own comic book.
Yeah.
Rather than just like, if your kid comes to you and says, I want to do this.
And she was another one that would have so many balls up in the air. Like being a mother, you know, with her NDIS business, her other projects on the side would be, I would assume, quite time poor.
Yeah.
But still made the time for us.
Still
which
made
I
the
really
time, yeah.
appreciate. So yeah, shout out Maddie.
Sumble.
Stumble.
So good.
Our
We had to
good
bring her back
friend.
for part 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, that was
Inspiring. I think is the
inspiring
word.
episode. So she was obviously a friend of Mira's, but she's now a friend of all of us, I would say.
yeah.
The amount of just, I don't know, ideas we're sharing in that first episode where it just felt like we didn't even want to like cut the episode because it just felt
Yeah, we just
so,
want to keep going.
so good. Yeah.
To bed. It was on a Thursday night and we were all ready for bed.
Yeah.
But
Was it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had to do a few of hers during the week.
Yeah.
But again, I valued it so highly. She's again really, really well spoken, interesting. We didn't really have to prompt her too much to speak. She had a story, and she just was an amazing guest to have.
Yeah.
I think the fact that she knows herself so well and the journey that she's been on
Yeah.
and where she wants to go now,
Yeah.
she's sort of found something that
She's really passionate
She's
about.
really passionate about. But to go through all those ups and downs, like that's something that I've definitely never experienced, and
Yeah.
to be able to like help that shape
come
your
out
life,
the other side of that.
come out the other side in a positive way
And motivate others.
and use that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been super inspiring.
Great story she's got.
Yeah.
Claudia?
Yeah. Claudia, Cairns studio.
Yeah.
So well spoken. That was the more, I suppose, spiritual element of
Yeah.
the show that we've been on. But again, something that we've learnt and really, really enjoyed learning more about. Pilates and yoga and everything
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it kept a really open mind towards everything that we've come across through there as well too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, again, really, really well spoken, has a great story. And again, her ability to juggle the business, motherhood, being a loving, beautiful wife. But I think the really big thing that stood out to me with Claudia was just how open and honest. She didn't keep off the side and be like, oh, like I've got it all under control. She's like, yeah, like sometimes I do struggle, but like this is what I'm doing to try and get through, and like really open with her audience and obviously with her friends and people around her.
That was such a good episode for just self-reflection as well.
Yeah.
I felt like that could have just been like a therapy session for us.
Yeah.
Off the lessons that
Another
she was
one we
just
didn't
doing.
want to end.
Yeah. Just the amount of things that she was bringing up around like mindset, spirituality, and how that, like as we were sitting here across from her, the ideas that were popping up in my own mind of like, damn, that's something that I'm experiencing as well and feeling like, and this is a way that I can sort of turn that or shape that and a way to rethink it or reshape how I'm going to think about it.
Yeah.
And the way those yoga practices actually linked quite well to the Stoicism practices that initially brought
the crossover.
Yeah.
this together was actually really interesting.
Yeah.
I can't remember if that was like an on-mic conversation or not, but it really stood true to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. I think there was that point at the end where we were just like every single thing that she kept saying about a way to deal with troubles in life or how to look at life or how to deal with things that pop up and while you're trying to go after your goals in life. That was just things that we've talked about 100 times together privately.
Yeah.
And it was just like in this other context, this other format or other lane of spirituality.
It's a good episode. Like once we turn the mics off, we sit there for another 20 minutes still discussing with them. Like that's when like we took value from it and we're really intrigued in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. James Harding.
Oh, yeah.
We had
Is it?
Toby,
Yeah.
and then James.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
And then
we had again, we can probably have the same intro, Mr. Toby Stanley.
Yeah.
Again, I just love his approach to life. He's just all like, it's so hard to rattle that man. He's just like really easygoing, but again, just truly so passionate about what he does. And he's been in that industry for so long. And to stay so passionate about it that whole time was just amazing. And again, just really good energy. Like you sit down with him and you just feel like you've been friends for years.
Yeah.
I think his ability to network and meet people, but not come across like he's trying to get value or something from it. He's just genuinely interested to meet people. Is really, really insightful.
I think something that you brought up with him, and this is just his view on life, it seems, is just how much he knows what he values. And whether that's adventure or going after an experience or something like that, he just wants to make it happen.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly insightful to see and inspiring because like you just, again, he was talking about his trip where he just decided to go away or how you guys were talking about, he would just go, he'd be driving back and he'd just go for a random adventure by himself and just enjoys his own time and knows what he really likes.
Yeah.
And even the adversity, like when he got stuck on the island because of the winds, that could have been like a huge issue for some people. But he and his friend just had the mindset of, no, we'll just enjoy being here for a couple longer days because that's where his values are. That's awesome.
Yeah.
True stoic mindset.
James.
Mr. Harding.
Mr. Harding.
my next door neighbour from across the road.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's good. He's another one that like we've seen at networking events for probably the last few years now. And I think ever since we started the podcast, he was always in the back of our mind to try and get him on. Again, just another really busy person to try and get some time from. But I just loved his mindset when he just knew what he wanted. And there was so much risk involved in leaving the comfort of his current role to start the business, and he just went in it full force. And then the other note I took away was just how he builds that organizational culture. So from a HR perspective, I just think it'd be the dream to work there. Like he puts so much time and effort into making his staff and his employees want to be there. It's like what we were talking about the other day. Like when you kind of create that culture, the work that you're getting back from your team is gonna tenfold anything else.
Yeah, that was such an interesting episode as well, just to hear his story after so long of knowing him.
Yeah,
and really hear some of the places that he was probably at in those times and how he made the decision to actually go full time. Just again, not enjoying that sort of that workplace or corporate life that he was at, and then making that transition to actually now having a team that he's built up, that people actually want to work there. And also the fact that he was like, I don't even want to have to fire people. If they leave, that's so fine. But I don't want to bring someone on that I'm going to have to fire.
Yeah.
Like he wants to build it from the start, that it's a good culture.
Yeah. It's awesome.
What's really cool is that I've known James for a few years now, and of all the guests we've had them on at their success, right? But I've known him when he was going through the struggles, and he was, working with the big firm and stuff like that before he started his own thing. And that was one of the reasons why we got him on. He started his own thing. But it's almost like I was there from like the ground up, watching him come through. And I was just like a spectator watching this all unfold to the point of, oh, look what you've done now. It's like, it's incredible. But I saw it. I saw what you're going through, and then I've just watched the star rise.
We have to mention the uniform. Love the dress policy, the polo works. Like the fact that he's
Polo
like, I know I
Birks.
do good work. This is what I'm comfortable working. I don't fuck. Like,
And their
it's
dog
so
is
good.
always at work too.
Yeah. So awesome.
Really cool stuff.
100%.
Probably
Campbell.
don't want to say too much about this one because the episode hasn't dropped yet. But amazing episode.
Oh my God, stay tuned.
Like,
All right.
I'm probably going to say one of our best.
This is going to come out
amazing.
after this.
Yeah, one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah.
I think what was really cool is that I was interested in breath work and kind of all that cold therapy and everything like that. Always a bit, it seems a bit woo-woo. I've read into it. I've read books. I've listened to podcasts and everything like that. But what this podcast has allowed us to do is facilitate the people that are the pros in their field. We have just been able to go, hey, do you want to sit down with us and have a chat? Ordinarily, if I just messaged him and said, hey, you got an hour and a half, he'd be like, no, who are you?
$800, please.
Yeah, $800 later. But he was so gracious and generous with his time. I was able to fill out an interest of mine way more than I would have ever been able to do if this podcast didn't exist. So that's something, again, one of the biggest takeaways for me is that I've been able to follow it almost like a passion and I've just been able to live it out.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think with Campbell's episode, since it's so recent, that was such a good point of being able to have an expert come on, teach us about this topic that we don't really have a lot of understanding about.
Yeah.
And specifically, the takeaway I got from him was awareness and having more awareness around what emotions or issues you might be dealing with rather than using, I guess, all these other activities, even like breathwork, and going straight to the solution and actually going back a step and like, hey, what's actually causing me to feel like this, where I feel like I need the solution. Yeah. And then figuring out there.
Yeah, 100%. That one just like blew my mind.
Yeah.
Like, again, I saw breathwork as something like put in the same basket as like an ice bath or a sauna or something to optimize and make yourself feel a little bit better.
But it's so much more than that.
So much more. And like I've like kind of delved off into my own personal research into it because it's just like I'm infatuated by it. I think it's the most cool thing ever.
Has any of us done any of the exercises he spoke about?
I scrolled through his Instagram. I will talk about it. The last few mornings I've woken up, I've done like that kind of wellness check, and I think it is awesome.
And that just ties into it again. Like we've taken so much or learnt so much from all these guests and even from our own research.
Yeah.
I think before we came in here, we were talking about how we're going back through the episodes and again, just picking up some of those ideas around like we might have forgotten some of the episodes that have come up.
Yeah.
But for us now, it's like actually ingrained in who we are.
Yeah.
Whether we
Yeah.
realize it or not,
Yeah,
like
oh,
it actually
absolutely.
has influenced who we become.
Yeah.
Even at like a really below the surface level
Yeah.
type of shit.
And I think again when we talk about like that 1% better, if after each episode we just implement like one tiny change into our either habits or routine, over 50 episodes that compounds and now we're like 50% better. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
we're genuinely living our slogan of better than
yeah,
yesterday.
yeah. So yeah, I think that's it from us. Obviously, again, a massive thank you for joining us along on this journey.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and we are more than excited for you to join us for another 50.
That's it. We really couldn't have done it without like the listeners, the supporters,
Yeah.
people sharing our posts, the amount of people that actually just message us
Or
and
come
comment.
up to us and say, yeah, loving the pod.
Yeah. The
Plenty
amount
more
of
of
times that we don't even realize that people would be listening to it and then come
Yeah.
up to us
Yeah.
at
It's
like
been
a
really
party
special.
Yeah.
or in business or something like that, or get an email from like a client that says that they've listened to it or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. So it's massive. It means the world to us. So
Yeah, it
thank you
does.
guys.
Shout out, you guys.
Thank you so much.
Love ya.
Love you.
Love yous.
Bye.